I can't believe it's happening to me. My wife, who's 48, and I've been married for 14 years, but it feels like she's a stranger to me now. She got a promotion a few years back and started making more money, and I noticed she's been distant ever since. But when the quarantine came, she went through a sudden transformation. It was like a switch flipped. And she told me she couldn't handle being stuck at home. This lockdown forced us to confront the problems in our marriage, which we've always had, but managed to ignore before. At the beginning, we were so compatible, but now it feels like we have nothing in common. I know we're not the only couple struggling to juggle work and kids and life, but that doesn't make it easier. Before the pandemic, we fought about everything, and she would always make it into a big deal. She suggested marriage counseling, and I reluctantly agreed, hoping to get back to how things used to be. But finding a counselor during the lockdown was impossible. So I suggested we try talking things out ourselves. I'm not going to lie. It's been tough. Our problems caused me to shut down, and we started sleeping in separate rooms. We still have moments of closeness, but it's not enough. She's a great mom to our kids, but what about us? I'm determined to fix this. No matter what it takes, I want to feel that spark we had when we first got married, detective work. In June, I reached my breaking point. I had no clue why these drastic changes were happening, and it tore me up inside to see my family falling apart. Even though my kids are young, they can sense that something is wrong, and it's affecting their mood. I trusted my instincts that something else was going on, something worse than our already broken marriage. That's when I decided to do some detective work on my own. I noticed that my wife never lets go over phone, always keeping it close and hidden from my view. She's constantly on it, ignoring me and the TV, waiting for the next text to come in. It's like she's in a trance with the phone as her only focus. She even leaves the house, claiming she's bored, but I suspect she's going to meet someone. I've been on this forum long enough to recognize the signs of cheating, and being stuck at home has exposed how clueless I've been. I know something's not right, but I need to be sure. That's why I ordered a voice-activated recorder on Amazon and installed it in her car while she slept. After 2 days of waiting anxiously, I finally retrieved the voice-activated recorder from my wife's car. As I listened to the recording, my heart sank. My wife was the only one speaking, but she was clearly talking to a guy. They were discussing work, but they were also talking about how much they missed each other and how bored she was with our marriage. I could hear the excitement in her voice as she talked about meeting up with him. My worst fears were confirmed. My wife was having an affair. As I continued to listen, I heard them plan to meet at a hotel parking lot near our house. When she arrived at the meeting location, I could hear the car door close as she got out of her car. My mind was racing. Should I confront her now? Should I wait and gather more evidence? It was the hardest thing I have ever done, sitting there, pretending like everything was okay while my was shattered into a million pieces. Even though my mind was racing and my stomach was in knots. Some people might wonder why I don't confront her immediately, but I know her too well. She's not the type to come clean easily, and she's extremely clever. She would deny everything, and it would turn into a huge fight. Without strong evidence, it would be difficult to get the closure I needed. That's why I took matters into my own hands. In addition to the voice-activated recorder, I also installed a GPS tracker in her car. With this tracker, I could monitor her every move through my phone. I knew it was extreme, but I needed to know the truth. And if my suspicions were correct, I needed to be prepared for what was to come. 2 weeks later, in mid-June, COVID restrictions were easing in my area, and my wife and I had started going back to work. One evening after we both came back from work, we had dinner and were watching TV. She was on her phone texting as usual when she suddenly said she was going for a late-night ride to clear her hit. At first, I felt a mix of anger and relief when she said that. I had been waiting for this moment for the past 2 weeks, because catching her red-handed had been on my mind constantly. I couldn't even concentrate at work because of it. I couldn't help but wonder how things went so bad in our marriage. Was it because she was making more money now? I knew I shouldn't blame myself for her cheating. But I couldn't help feeling that way. As soon as I heard her car leave the driveway, I turned off the TV and put the kids to bed. Then I grabbed my phone and opened the tracking app. I saw that her car was in a parking lot close to our house. I assumed that they had booked a hotel room there. So I planned on camping in the hotel lobby to catch them when they came out. I couldn't believe how careless my wife was for choosing such a location for cheating. Or was I so blind that she thought I wouldn't find out who goes a ride in the middle of the night to clear their head anyway? She must think I'm a fool. Or maybe she took advantage of our rough patch and wanted some space. After about 20 minutes, since she left, I got into my car and drove to the hotel. When I arrived, I saw only 5 cars in the parking lot. It was usually not a busy hotel, but it looked unusually quiet. I noticed that the lobby lights were off. So I realized that the hotel was still shut down. I parked my car at a distance from the others and noticed my wife's car parked in a secluded area of the lot. There was also an SUV parked next to her car. My heart started beating fast when I realized that they might be in either her car or his car. I wasn't sure if they had noticed me because of the way they parked, which gave them a view of any car entering the parking lot from the highway. The parking lot was dark and quiet, and they were in a secluded area. I turned off my car and stared in their direction to see if I could make out whether they were still in the car. Since the hotel was closed, they must have been in either his or her car. The longer I stared, the more I realized that they weren't in the car, because the driver and passenger sides were empty. By now, it had been almost 40 minutes since she left the house, and I knew she would be heading back home anytime soon because she knew I would be worried about her being out for so long this late. The thought of how she could leave the house and kids for some cheap love in a motel parking lot with a stranger made me lose it. This was not the same woman I had been married to for 15 years. I couldn't just drive to the secluded area where they parked because it was about 30 yards away. So I made a faithful decision to get out of my car and walk toward their car in such a way that they wouldn't see me coming. The closer I got to their cars, the more I noticed a rhythmic movement of the SUV. All the emotions I had been holding back for the past week suddenly got to me all at once, and I lost it. I ran toward the car. And when I got there, I tried to open the door, but it was locked. I couldn't believe what I saw. My wife, who I've been married to for 15 long years, was getting close with a stranger in a rundown motel parking lot like some kind of cheap 403. The guy drove away as fast as he could, leaving me feeling like I failed in my mission to catch them in the act. I really wanted to catch them red-handed with their clothes off, but at least she can't deny what she did. A long night. I was up all night, waiting for her to come home. It wasn't until 5 a.m. that she finally walked through the door. As soon as I saw her, I could tell something was wrong. She looked completely worn out. Like she had just been through a battle. Her body language was screaming guilt and shame, and she couldn't even look me in the eye. The first thing she said was that she could explain everything, that it wasn't what it looked like. But I already knew she had been meeting up with this guy on multiple occasions. She admitted to knowing him for about 6 months, but wouldn't tell me who he was. Or that she works with them. She said they both had problems in their marriages and felt lonely, so they turned to each other for support. They only had closeness once, and that was when I caught them. She became defensive, saying that our marriage has been on the rocks and she's been feeling stressed. She didn't want to split up, but she needed some space to figure things out. She was upset that I had listened in on her conversation and followed her, and she even went so far as to say that she won't stop seeing this person because she feels supported by him, especially given how bad things have been between us. I was devastated. It felt like my entire world had crumbled around me. How could she do this to me after all these years together? The pain was almost unbearable, and I didn't know how I was going to make it through this. I knew that it was over between us. I had made up my mind to tell her that I wanted a divorce. I didn't expect her to be surprised, and I certainly didn't expect her to feel guilty about what she had done. She had already made it clear to me that she felt justified in cheating, that our marriage had been loveless, and she needed to find happiness elsewhere. I knew that she would most likely move on with her affair partner, and that was something I had come to terms with. It hurt, of course, but I knew that it was for the best. I couldn't continue to live in a loveless marriage, and I couldn't force her to stay with me if her heart wasn't in it. Despite the fact that I really want to scream at her for being such a sleazy tramp, I still want to give her a chance to blab her on, even though I know she's gonna be spewing nothing but lies. It's like a tiny part of me is hoping she'll say something that'll make me want to stick around and work things out. I mean, I still love her. Kinda just thinking about it makes my heart ache more than when I eat jalapenos for breakfast. I laid down the law with my wife and told her that if she wants us to try marriage counseling, she needs to come clean with everything about the affair. I want to know exactly when it started, and she needs to cut all ties with her affair partner. She also needs to quit her job because I don't want her anywhere near him. But she's not making it easy for me. She's saying she already told me everything, but I just don't buy it. She claims she's been ignoring his calls, but I'm not so sure about that. They work together and she's in a high position at the company, so it's not like she can just quit. She's suggesting she could get transferred to another department, but I'm not sure that's enough. I want her to force him to transfer or leave the company altogether. If she can't do that, then we might as well end things now. I'm so angry and hurt by all of this, and I just want her to prove that she's willing to do whatever it takes to save our marriage. New compromising material. It was a great day for me as I finally found out who the other guy was. I left work early and went to my wife's workplace to catch a glimpse of the car he drives. I found it and waited for him to finish work and drive off. I followed him for 25 miles until he pulled into his driveway. And I got his full contact information and even saw his picture online. It turns out he's married with 3 kids, and I have his wife's information too. After a few days of contemplating, I finally called his wife and told her everything. She was understandably angry and wanted to confront her husband right away, but I advised her to think it through first. She mentioned that they had a summer vacation plan with their extended family. So the timing wasn't ideal for a confrontation. It's been a couple of days now, and I'm not sure if she's confronted him yet. She said they have a summer vacation plan next week with extended families and kids, so weren't sure of the timing for confronting. So after my little chit-chat with my unfaithful wifey, she agreed to give me a written rundown of when the affair began, switch teams at work to get away from her little fling buddy within 3 weeks, and cut off all contact with him. Now I know some of you are all like, call HR and bust those cheaters. But honestly, what's in it for me? I make decent dough, but she still brings home the bacon. And if we split now, I won't have to cough up any cash for child support or alimony. The only thing that freaks me out is the thought of a custody battle. Don't get me wrong. I'm still thinking about pulling the plug on this whole marriage thing. I only agreed to the meeting to make it seem like I still care and buy some time to talk to a lawyer and figure out my options. So I read the timeline my wife gave me, and it was like a stab to the heart. It was clear that she's head over heels for her fleeing partner, even though she keeps saying sorry and acting like she wants to work on our marriage. But let's face it, the ship has sailed. If I agree to go to couples counseling, I'd basically be telling her that I'm okay with her cheating. I bet her affair partner wants to stay with his own wife, and she's just using me as a backup plan. This morning, I hit up 3 lawyers downtown to find the right one for me. I ended up with a badass female lawyer who heard my story and saw the written timeline. She said it was smart of me to get that evidence, and that even if it's not entirely true, it could still help my case if things get messy in court. She also let me know that in my state, I have 3 months from the time I found out about the cheating to file for divorce. Otherwise, it'll look like I'm okay with it. I'm hoping this will come in handy during the custody battle just in case served her the divorce papers. Last night, I broke the news to my cheating wife that I'm filing for divorce. I was planning on serving her the papers at work, but I wanted to talk to her like a grown-up first. Boy, was I not prepared for her reaction? She claimed I tricked her and led her on, making her think we were going to fix things. I fired back, reminding her that she made her bed when she spread her legs like a cheap tramp in a parking lot. It turned into a screaming match and we were both yelling at the top of our lungs. At one point, she started bawling and begging for forgiveness, saying she loves me. I hate her for making me feel this way, for ruining my family. But I know deep down that I had to do what was best for me. I met with my lawyers and then headed to Kinko's to get the legal documents printed. When my wayward wife arrived home, I had the papers ready for her to sign. She acted surprised and tried to convince me that we could work things out, but I didn't fall for it. I reminded her that she had been lying to me for 2 years about her affair and I could never trust her again. I told her that I wanted her to sign the papers for the sake of our kids, but she refused and demanded to speak to her lawyer first. She even had the nerve to say that she didn't want to be with her affair partner and that she wanted me back. Yeah, right. She had her chance and blew it. She can keep crying and begging, but I'm done with her. In one moment, she immediately turned from crying and begging to an angry voice and screamed as I walked away, saying, "Keep walking away like a coward. I will not sign anything till I speak to my lawyer." One fine day, she finally signed the papers, probably after consulting with her own lawyer. Despite the divorce proceedings, she continues to do her daily chores, like cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids. She's probably trying to show that she can handle everything on her own, but we all know she can't resist my charming personality and the perks of being married to me. I opened a can of worms, so I got some juicy news today. The other cheated on spouse gave me a ring out of nowhere. Don't know how she got my digits. Maybe I slipped it when I stormed into her office to expose my unfaithful spouse and her cheating hubby. She was pretty hush-hush on the phone, insisting we meet up for lunch at some cafe tomorrow. But get this, I'm also scheduled to meet her this afternoon. I'm feeling nervous and on edge. Who knows what she's got up her sleeve? Last time we spoke, she was torn up about her husband's cheating ways. She's a hard-working business owner, from what I gather, with the looks of someone in their late 30s. When I first laid eyes on her and her husband, I thought they were already well into their 40s, but what do I know? Right? Maybe they just have a really hard life. So I took a snapshot of my wife's timeline on my phone and sent the hard copy to my lawyer. Then I gave my boss the heads up that I might not be coming back from lunch. Who knows? Maybe I'll never come back at all. Decided to rendezvous at a nearby coffee shop not too far from where I work. As I walked in, I saw the other betrayed spouse already standing up, ready to face me. I tried to play it cool by extending my hand for a handshake, but she went in for the hug. It was a bit awkward, but I guess we had an instant connection since we were both in the same boat, betrayed, and left to pick up the pieces. She started off by thanking me for telling her about her husband's infidelity. Then she broke the news that would rock my world. Apparently, she had some inside info on my wife that would really piss me off. She thought about writing me a letter, but said it wouldn't do it justice. Plus, she wanted to send a message to my wife too. But she was afraid things would turn ugly if they met person. So she asked me to relay the message to my wife to stay away from her husband. Turns out, this betrayed spouse was no dummy. Instead of flying off the handle like I did, she took my advice and hired a private investigator to gather evidence. She even installed spy software on her husband's phone and was able to retrieve emails and texts between him and my wife for the past 4 years. I couldn't believe it. Meanwhile, my wife guards her phone like it's the Hope Diamond and won't even let me within arm's reach of it. So it turns out that my cheating wife and her side piece have been sneaking around on some secret app, being careful not to use their work email for anything romantic, but the private investigator found their texts, and it's clear they've been doing the dirty deed on and off for 3 years, with things turning physical 2 years ago. Even though there were no hotel receipts, the investigator saw that they met up at least twice a week in hotels and bars. And get this. The affair started a few months before she got a promotion. From the messages, it's obvious my wife was an active participant while the other guy was just going with the flow. I mean, come on. Even a dude like me can see that. I gotta say I'm more crushed now than when I caught her getting frisky with the guy in the parking lot. I feel like a total loser, humiliated and embarrassed. I mean, I've loved this woman. And this is how she repays me. By calling me old, unadventurous, and lacking ambition. They even made fun of me behind my back. The meeting with the other betrayed spouse took forever, for like 3 or 4 hours. She gave me a copy of all the evidence since she had a backup. I was planning on showing her the timeline my wife wrote, but it was so obvious that it would have been embarrassing to even bring it up. After the meeting, she hugged me again, and we said our goodbyes. I went to a nearby bar to drown my sorrows. It looks like my ex never loved me, even though I thought we had a good relationship. She was hiding a whole other side of herself, which she was showing off to another guy without me knowing. Meanwhile, I was just the guy she settled for. The one who took care of the kids and kept the house in order while she was busy sleeping her way up the career ladder with other dudes from work. Another woman whose husband was cheated on gave you some names of other married managers my wife had hookups with. Apparently, she decided to focus on one guy, but who knows how long the other flames lasted. Justice has been served. I'm feeling pretty damn betrayed and hurt right now, and I want to make her feel the pain too. This chick is straight up evil, and she needs to pay for her lies. I'm not gonna just confront her like a wimp. I need to show her I'm not weak. So I'll try something she'd never expect, something that'll shock the crap out of her. I want to hurt her so bad that it exposes who she really is. The thing is, my wife is a total pro at putting up a fake front for the community. She's always acting like the sweetest, most wholesome lady to our neighbors, bringing over casseroles and whatnot. And at church, she's the go-to usher and model Christian wife, always with the smile on her face. But deep down, she's hella insecure about her image and what people think of her. She's a type of personality, a natural leader, and to her parents, she's daddy's little angel with the freaking halo over her head. They think she can do no wrong, and they always blamed me for our marriage problems. They have no idea caught her hooking up with some dude in a damn parking lot. But now it's time to take off the kid gloves. It's time to shatter their little bubble. I'm gonna send all those juicy text messages and pics to her parents and let them see their precious daughter for who she really is. So I went to Kinko's to make copies of the evidence that the other betrayed wife gave me. Then I met up with my lawyer to discuss my options. I showed her the evidence and asked if I could sue my wife's employer and those 2 other married managers. My goal is not to win, but to expose those cheaters and create a scandal that would make great headlines. My lawyer said we could sue for alienation of affection, but that requires my wife's cooperation, and we both know she won't do that. However, my lawyer did draft some legal documents that I can use to give my wife an ultimatum to get a better deal in the divorce settlement and move out of my house ASAP. This will be her wake-up call. I will threaten her that I was going to sue her company and the managers she had closeness with. And I will also notify the local papers. I'll also let the local papers know about it just to make it sound more dramatic. I mean, even if the lawsuit is stupid and gets thrown out of court, the damage will already be done once the public hears about it, and then she'll have no choice but to move out of our family home and leave it all to me. Oh, and, yeah, I got a lawyer to draft a legal paper to sue her employer and those managers, just in case. Yesterday, I had to pick up my kids from school and take them to my wife's parents' place. They're sweet old folks and they're 70s retired and all that jazz. I decided to have a little chat with them and show them some evidence of their daughter's affair, including some naughty pics that really drove the point home. The poor dad was heartbroken and kept apologizing to me, while the mom couldn't believe her precious church-going daughter could do such a thing. It was kinda sad to see them realize what their daughter was really up to. I mean, I knew it would hurt them, but still. When I got back home, my wife was on the phone with her parents sobbing her eyes out. But the moment she saw me, she hung up and started freaking out, asking all sorts of questions about the evidence I had on her. She was shaking and sweating like crazy, like her whole world was about to collapse, and you know what? It kinda felt good to see her like that. I totally caught my wife off guard when I dropped some major lawsuit intel on her. I mean, her reaction was priceless. She looked like she was about to hurl and even pulled on her hair like she was trying to rip it out. And just for kicks, I told her I had already called up the local paper to give them the scoop. Of course, this sent her into panic mode. She started begging me to drop the whole thing, offering up an amicable divorce and even alimony payments, but all I wanted was for her to pack her bags and get out of our house ASAP. I straight up told my ex that I wanted her to hit the road and take her name off the deed to our love shack. Oh, and I also wanted 50.50 its custody of the kids and a chill divorce. She hesitated for a sec, but then caved and said, absolutely. While still groveling on the floor, my ex begged me to give her a week to vacate the premises. She claimed to have no other options since all her friends are married and her parents are currently giving her the cold shoulder. I suggested she stay in an extended stay hotel until the condo I had already rented was ready for her to take over. And that's exactly what happened. 2 days later, she was out of my hair and in a new place. We ended up finalizing the divorce a few weeks later, and I got custody of the kids in the house. It was probably a little bit of a hit for her since she makes more money than me. But, hey, that's life. Now that it's all said and done, I'm getting back in shape and staying away from the booze. And as far as dating goes, well, I'm not in any rush to jump back into the game.